Hi, everybody. Welcome to Blue Hue Design Studio. Today we have with us Rachel, and let's get started. Hey, Rachel, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So, you are a marketing manager, and you've been in the industry for quite a while, and you have worked with a lot of high end clients. So, tell me about your category and marketing management experiences.
Sure. So today I'm a marketing manager in CPG pharma primarily. So I manage a portfolio of allergy products. Kind of how I started out my professional career was actually in operations. So before I got into marketing, I worked in retail operations, so retail management as a district manager. The company that I previously worked for, Speedway, so they're a very large convenience store chain throughout the U.S. That's actually one of their requirements is they like you to work right there in their stores for a couple of years before you actually work in their marketing department. So I did that for a couple of years and then held a variety of category management type roles at Speedway, primarily in food service. So everything from bakery to deli to hot foods, and spending that time actually in the retail locations and managing, I had 12 different locations I managed, really helped prepare me for my category management experience and marketing management experience. Because if I don't understand how these stores operated, the programs that I was implementing and putting forward probably wouldn't have been as successful. So that's kind of how I started and got into marketing and category management. And then as I transitioned to my current company, I've been here 4 years this month, and I've been on the category and marketing management side. Some people use those terms interchangeably. Ultimately, throughout my marketing career, I've always managed a portfolio of products and work with all of the different cross-functional teams from our graphic designers and advertising to starting by building that strategy with our marketing analysts and consumer insights team.
Kind of like overall, all around rounded team effort. You kind of coordinate all the teams around you when it comes to marketing.
Yeah.
So, what are the major differences between your role in your previous company and the one that you are right now?
So yeah, it's the big difference is when I started in my two different companies I worked for, I started on the retail side, right? So I was putting together the promotional plans, I was launching new products, but part of that position, I was also working with a lot of suppliers to source and to buy the products I needed to sell in the stores. So that was really great experience. So I got the opportunity to negotiate and to collaborate with suppliers, and then execute out in the store level. So now I'm on the flip side. So I'm on the manufacturing supplier side, which has been very helpful because now I support our sales team when I'm bringing them new market research or we're launching new products. Ultimately, I have to equip our sales team to be successful in going into one of our customers, whether that's Amazon or Walmart, going in and selling one of our new products. And I used to be that person on the other side of the table they were talking to a lot of times. So it's been very helpful for me in this current role to understand both sides of the desk.
So it's kind of what they want. Like you can put yourself in their shoes and kind of understand their needs better. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the advantages of having migrated from one end of the spectrum to the other. What is the most challenging aspect of marketing management?
So I would say one of the most challenging things is also one of my favorite things. So, as I kind of mentioned, I worked with a lot of cross-functional teams. First, our analytical teams to build out the strategy, and then with our sales team to make sure they go and, and sell the new products, working with our designers, to create, great assets, whether that's our digital team to in-store, even a lot of groups outside of marketing. So I work with R&D on had a call this morning on the very early stages. We're 3 to 4 years out developing a product. There's so many different teams you work with, which is what I like. I kind of feel like, you know, the quarterback on a football team, or, you know, being able to put the different pieces together. But at the same time, that can be very challenging, right? So it's
obviously.
yeah. So it's really important to be able to, what I find where I've been successful is really building those relationships with the cross-functional teams, because you have to be able to lead without authority. You know, these people don't necessarily report to me or in the team I directly work on, but I rely on, you know, 20 different teams really to bring together everything that's needed for a successful new product launch, or bringing forward a new insights for, you know, on the consumer. So there's a lot of collaboration, which I like, but it's also the most challenging thing as well.
Yeah, it's more like you have the responsibility, but in some places you don't have the authority. So it really takes something to bring them together and get what you want done. That's really challenging. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have any set plan or strategy, or do you develop and execute your strategies as you go? How do you work on that when you do the marketing?
Yeah, so when it comes to building, you know, the marketing strategy, so I have, that's, you know, and that's kind of in the marketing management type role or category manager, that's a key function. So I'm a very, I guess, strategic thinker, you know, thinking, you know, what we currently have and looking long-term to kind of build that out. It's always starting with, you know, that consumer. Who is our customer, and understanding them? What do they need? You know, answering some of those questions to help deliver them a solution they need, or they don't even know they need potentially yet. Yeah. So it's really starting with the data and understanding, what is the market doing? What does the research say about, you know, the consumer? And then bringing that together, working with all those analytical teams to bring together the data and building out that strategy, right? And because I've always said, people always ask me, oh, Rachel, what do you think? And the first thing that I respond to is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I think. It's what does the consumer.
Yeah, the target audience that matters.
Yeah. So it's, like I said, really working with a lot of those analytical teams to understand the data and put together and build out that strategy. And then once you have that identified and kind of laid out, then it's working with a lot of those creative teams, our creative services team, our sales team, advertising, communications, to put together how we can execute that strategy. How can we create, you know, the assets from, you know, the actual design of the packaging to, you know, the carton it goes in, to the different advertising on digital to in-store, you know, just really looking at that whole omni-channel experience and working with the creative teams to put together a plan to execute the strategy. So I always kind of put myself, you know, in the middle, kind of working with both sides, you know, analytical and creative, to create it and then work on, you know, executing it.
Executing it. Nice. So as you mentioned, the most important aspect of marketing is the target audience, or the consumers. So how do you conduct the marketing research? What steps do you take to do that, and how do you analyze the market?
So yeah, when you look at the target consumer, it's really finding what's going to resonate with them. And I think that's changed a lot, right? So, I mean, just in 2020,
yeah,
where they get their information, how they get their product, you know, there's been a lot changing. So it's not just a one size fits all anymore. So if you go back, you know, years in marketing, and we looked a lot at demographics. While that's still important, you know, a lot of times I'll get the question like, oh, what's the demographic of that consumer? Well, in a category that I manage, half of households have an allergy product in their medicine cabinet. That's a very broad, you know, we have all different generations, all different income brackets, household types. There's just so many different things where you can't just look at those traditional demographics that I think we once did in marketing, and really going into the behavior side and understanding how they shop, where they shop. And one message, one advertising campaign is not going to cover it all. So it's taking those different groups and really having a message that's going to resonate with, the different, age groups, right? Or just where they're, where they're shopping, the shopper of a drugstore versus the shopper of a club store. We're going to reach them and talk to them through messaging very differently. So I think that we've seen a big shift in just how we communicate, and we've all seen it, right? You have to be so much more customized and personalized.
Yeah, definitely.
Everyone's looking for a solution that fits them exactly. Anyone who's been on social media for any period of time, you see those ads that are directed exactly at you. It's like they know what your favorite sports team is.
Like they know what we are thinking.
Yes, it's kind of scary.
Definitely.
That's how customized that it's gotten. So we have to think, I think, very differently to reach that consumer, understand them, but then understand they're not just one person, one group, and just making sure we have a plan through many different communication channels and different messaging to reach them. What we're going to put on Instagram is very different than what we're going to put on in-store signage.
True. So speaking of signage, you work with creative services to actually kind of like bring your ideas into vision. How do you engage with them? How do you relate with them, and how's that part of your function?
So yeah, they're a very, very big part of what I do. They make everything that I bring forward look really good, because that's not my skill set. So from the very beginning of when we are looking to launch a new product, I'll work with our designers, and right alongside them, I'll kind of give them here are the priorities. Maybe here's the color palette. Here's kind of the theme of what I want it to look like. And they'll create, and we'll collaborate and go back and forth, and they'll design what that package would look like. And that's from step one, so, okay, we got the packaging down, working in, mostly CPG type area. So packaging is important. So we get the packaging down, and then is creating, okay, how are we going to, from an advertising standpoint, putting together now, what's the messaging we want to communicate through the different channels, how do we want to lay out the digital product page to in-store signage, all the different assets that are going to help sell and, present this product as it's launched, including all the sell materials that our sales team needs. So that's from, the launch campaign to creating our PowerPoint templates, and just giving all of the different tools that our sales team can then go in to our customers and effectively sell the product. So that's just one example from a new product standpoint. Then on an ongoing basis, looking at our entire portfolio, and we're constantly making updates, especially, on the digital world, to make sure you're incorporating our most recent insights and research and anything else that is needed from that standpoint. So we collaborate a lot on a regular basis.
As you mentioned earlier, marketing has come a long way, especially in the past few years, with the introduction of social media and the popularity of websites, and with the current scenario where we are more connected, but while being disconnected. So what is the role, and how do you engage your digital marketing spend?
Yeah, so that's something that's like never ending, right? We're constantly updating, different things. So we work on creating, product pages, right? So for all of our products, and making sure it has, everything is optimized from all of the images that are out there, creating, video, video is so important now as well. So making sure that we have video for whether it's for the product page or the different social platforms or the websites, that we use. And it's so in the world, I work in, the majority of our sales are still in brick and mortar. But we're seeing a big shift, and COVID really accelerated that shift to more people buying online. So, one of the challenges we've had is replicating that in-store experience. So you're at shelf, you're picking out the product, you're looking at it. Well, how do you do that, digitally? So we work a lot with how we can, replicate, that experience from, whether it's creating a shelf set digitally and providing all of the video or tools that's needed, online. And if you think about a packaged product, right? So everything that I work in is in maybe a bottle with a label and a carton. And packaging is a big cost. But when you're buying, but it's also your billboard, right? So when it's on shelf at the retailer, that packaging is your billboard to be able to sell it. Now, you could actually cut out a lot of cost when you're selling on e-commerce, because you don't need that billboard. Your billboard is digital and it can change. And what's nice is it's so much more flexible that it can change in real time. And you can be more sustainable with your packaging as well, because you can reduce the amount of plastic and cardboard that you're using, which is really nice. And we're able to start thinking a lot differently in how we package and put together the products for our e-commerce customers, like Amazon and the others.
Yeah, big stores. That's nice. Yeah, that's really insightful. So have online sales and all these technology impacted how you reach your target consumers? And is it to the better or towards the worse? Or do you still use the basic principles that you were using before? So
yeah, so reaching the consumer in this space, when we looked at where we were pre-COVID, because that's the world we're living in now, the share of sales that were online in the space that I play in, and it's over the counter pharmaceuticals, that has doubled since COVID, where before it was like slowly creeping up, strong double-digit growth. I mean, but it's still the overall share sales was smaller in that space, but had the strongest growth. And where we're at today, so I mean, within a couple months after COVID, where we were at, just not even as a company, but as an entire industry, that channel shift we're seeing from in-store to online, has doubled. And I expected that to be at least 3 to 5 years down the road where it would take to get to the point we're at today. That happened pretty much overnight.
Wow. That's, yeah.
So it makes it very exciting, because we can be so much more nimble and, working and updating in real time. If we want to make a change to physical signage or physical packaging, that's months, right? It's just like the supply chain on that and the creation is very long, where we can make updates in real time, through the digital platform and through e-commerce. So, but it's just, talking to the consumer, and we're doing things that we hadn't done before. Like I said, I'm working on a pretty large video campaign right now that was a year ago a very small piece of what we did in CPG, over the counter drugs. I mean, it was there, but it was very small. So we're really shifting in where we're putting our energy, and you even see it from any of the brands that are out there in this space. All of their money and where they're spending, they've shifted a lot of that to digital, because that's where the consumer is. And even though the share of sales dollars online isn't what it is in brick and mortar yet, 76% of sales are influenced digitally. And that's a stat from pre-COVID. That I guarantee you that number is even higher now.
Oh.
So even though they might not buy a certain product on Amazon or another e-commerce platform, the influence of digital is huge, because that's where they're going to see ratings and reviews, to see price comparisons. Are there any coupons available? That's where you typically start your journey on the path to making a purchase. You do your research before you buy something.
Yeah, look at the Sunday paper, and now we are looking online.
Yeah,
that's true. So, speaking of consumers, where are they at now compared to where consumers were like a few years ago? What is the evolution?
Yeah, so it's seeing kind of like I just talked about the evolution of going from in-store, to online and just being more customized in how we reach them. So it's kind of circling back to it's no longer a one size fits all. And to be competitive, in any space, whether it's services or product, it's really being able to have a whole omni-channel advertising campaign of sorts. So you're going to reach them in different spaces, through social, through in-store, there's even still some billboards out there, but it's really taking a look at how that consumer is transforming to where they're getting their information from, where they're buying it, who are the influencers. Influencer marketing, that didn't exist, years ago. So, there's just so many changes and platforms that have really exploded in the past year, and the consumer, as they just continue to shift, they're moving through different channels, they're getting their information in different ways, and they're shopping and making decisions differently than they had in the past.
Yeah, so based on the shift in consumer behavior that you are seeing, what are the shifts that happened post-COVID? So what are the shifts that you're seeing more pronounced in consumer behavior in 2020?
So talking about some of the different behavioral shifts, but then where they shop, even looking at obviously everyone we know they're buying more online because it's easier, but just the different services that are available. So for so long there are so many different things, like what's the next product, what's the next innovation, and so much of the innovation that we've seen out there is service related. So we see that the curbside to go, we see Shipt and Instacart, all of these platforms are able to give our consumers convenience and provide them with the service. All of the different, just to get your food, something to eat, Uber Eats to Grubhub. There's so many platforms, I could keep listing them, to someone who can walk your dog. We're just seeing such a shift in all of the different services that are available to help you, whether it's, walk your dog or, get you your groceries. And people are, not only do they want convenience, right now they're trying to minimize their exposure to going places. So we're seeing like the resurgence of grocery, for example, where grocery was on the decline. Now consumers, they want to go one stop. They want to just stop and get everything that they need. And actually, grocery is kind of benefiting coming out of COVID. So I'm really excited to see how the consumer continues to transform and evolve throughout the next year, because we've seen this big shift in 2020 and it's kind of held on, coming out of COVID, that's continued to hold on the last, 6 months. Now, how long will that continue? Is this the new normal and how they're shopping? And then we'll just, we're continuing to see 100+% increase on the services, like I mentioned with the Instacart or Shipt or e-commerce, this such strong growth. How is that that might be the new normal? And a year from now is going to be all these other insights we're going to have and be able to reflect back on. So from a marketer, where the consumer is always number one, is always, what does the consumer want? What do they need? How can we fulfill, their unmet needs as well? Is really interesting to just see. Like before, you could kind of predict, and they kind of hummed along. Their behavior was much more predictable. There's so much going on where it's scary at times, but it's also super interesting from someone who really enjoys consumer behavior.
Well, thank you. That's really insightful. And for someone who's in digital designing, concentrating on branding, it's really hard to predict what's going to happen, because we, like you mentioned, with your creatives, we need to kind of like have the ideas so that we project it right to the target audience. We need to know what they want so that we can see. It's like this, like there's the company which has the products and there's the consumer, and they have the need for the product, but it's the middlemen, like marketing people like you, designers like me. We need to make sure that we reach the target audience so that they know that we have the product or that they have the need for this product. So, and especially with what's going on right now, and the trend is shifting more and more to online shopping. And you'll be amazed to hear I ordered something via Amazon a couple of days ago, and the packaging it came in was nothing but a cardboard box. There was no
Yep.
branding, no nothing, just a cardboard box. And I was like, okay, so they know that I am already their customer and they don't need any more advertising. So they're just ready to send me what exactly I want. And it was zero waste, which I really appreciated. But I'm pretty sure a couple of years ago, it would have been like at least Amazon's branding would have been on that. So it is a major shift that is going on right now where the focus is more on delivering the product at the right time more than branding, I would say. I'm not sure if I'm saying this right. You may be a better judge of that. But yeah, the trend is
No, that's
changing. Go ahead.
very interesting, and kind of what we were talking about earlier is the branding is all shifting and taking place, digitally, right? So somewhere online, through some app, through some website, and which I think is exciting because it gives you the opportunity to just be able to change and update in real time, and being able to save on some of those packaging costs, that are out there, while being more sustainable, because you made your decision. By the time you get that product, you've made it. You made the decision based upon the digital billboard, the digital platform that was their selling shelf, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, it was nice to hear your very insightful and expert opinion on this, and I'm pretty sure that those who are new to marketing would really benefit out of this. So can you wrap up by telling us about the Facebook group that you have and your direction for marketing?
Oh, sure. Yes. So yes, thank you for having me. It was great to, meet you virtually and talk with you. And so yeah, just almost about 2 months ago, I launched a Facebook group, Women in Marketing Connecting. And kind of how that came about is just this whole shift, with COVID. I've always been very active in, I guess, extracurricular activities through different networking groups, mostly in person. And, with COVID, I was trying to figure out, okay, how else can I interact and engage with other women in marketing? And especially, I went from working in a corporate office every day to now working in my home office. And so it's just, I'm saving, I guess, an hour and a half a day of commute time. So I'm like, what's next? What can I do with this time? I always like to have something else going on. How can I connect with, other women? So, I, launched the Facebook page, and that's been, going really well, and just being able to meet other people, share my stories, hear from others. I've been doing, different Facebook Lives each week. This week, I'm actually going to be interviewing a little bit different spin, a VP of HR, to kind of get their perspective and how, as a marketer, you can really promote and develop yourself to, move forward in your career progression. So starting to, bring in some other experts as well to just kind of help all of us learn and grow in our profession.
Definitely. That's so nice of you to take your time out and do this. Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for being with us today and spending your time and enlightening us on the role of a marketer. Thank you so much, Rachel.